So it occurs to me, as we are beginning a new series, that I'm not sure Super Bowl Sunday is the day to start talking about meditation. It occurs to me that those who are football fanatics do not necessarily practice non-attachment. But there is a lesson here for all of us. You know, you know why a vacuum cleaner doesn't work in an ashram, right? A vacuum cleaner doesn't work in an ashram? They keep losing the attachments. Ba-dum, boom. Thank you, really. Thank you. I'll be here all week. I don't know. The first service is so well behaved, and so I have to kind of step up my game, and then you guys show up, and it's like, oh, whatever. So, but we are starting this series, and I'm very pleased that we are doing so. Our theme for this year is the power. And each month we're looking, last month we looked at the power of choice, this month we're looking at the power of meditation, and we'll go through each month with a power of something. But I'm so aware of this power of meditation. We all have heard this. Don't we all know that if we're going to be spiritual, probably it would do us good to spend some time in the silence, right? You've heard this? This is not breaking news, right? And yet, I find myself from time to time so busy that I don't have time for silly things like prayer and meditation. You know, I've got a ministry to run. Right? I know, it's a bit ironic. One of the things when I often mentor new or other ministers, and I say, we want to be so certain that in our quest for providing spirituality that we don't lose our own spiritual practice, that we don't lose that thing that gives depth to our soul. And so I wanted to look at this today. I think this quote is very beautiful from Yogananda, who he says, "The wellspring of diluted joy of spirit is buried within your soul. Discover it and bathe in that fountain of eternal bliss." The masters throughout the ages, for 5,000 years that we know of, have taught us that there is a way of being inside of ourselves that determines our experience. It occurs to me that so often we believe that this idea that we have made up called my reality, we believe to be true. Have you noticed this? That once you decide what reality is, then we go about living our lives as if that were true. So the whole of science of mind helps us to understand that life is not a certain way, but life is the way we understand it to be. So when we decide that there's a right way to be and a wrong way to be, we go about our lives living as if that were true. Now, I was not going to do this because I am practicing unconditional love and forgiveness. But, there are people in the world. First of all, I've heard a rumor that some of you will be engaging in riotous living this afternoon. I know it's hard to believe. Others, even worse than that, are going to cheer for the wrong team. It's just practicing. You see, this is why it is important to keep practice, because otherwise you could move into that reactive mind that might respond in wholly inappropriate ways. But lo, those of us who are deeply spirited people can love all. No, it's a great thing. You see, here's the thing. Dr. Howard Thurman. Now, you've heard me talk many times about Dr. Howard Thurman. Dr. Howard Thurman was a contemporary of Martin Luther King. In fact, I've just read recently that he went to school at Morehouse College with Martin Luther King. I'm not sure if that's actually true, but I like the story. Brilliant, brilliant, deep soul. One of my favorites. I often say that if I only got to take a few books on a desert island, his would be one of them. He feeds my soul. And Dr. Howard Thurman was a black man, the son of sharecroppers, who went on to become an amazing minister and went on to form one of the first interracial churches in America. And so one of the things that he did is every week he'd write for his bulletin these beautiful thoughts. And so here he shares today, I want this one that I want to share with you, which is the need for periodic rest. And he says this: there is no clear distinction between mind and spirit, but there is a quality of mind that is more than thought and the process of thought. This quality involves feelings and the wholeness in which the life of humanity has its being. What is being considered is what a man means totally when he says, I am. This self shares profoundly in the rhythm that holds and releases, but never lets go. There is the rest of detachment and withdrawal when the spirit moves into the depths of the region of the great silence, where world weariness is washed away and blurred vision is once again prepared for the focus of the long view, where seeking and finding are so united that failure and frustration, real though they are no longer felt to be ultimately real. There is a way of being in the world that the mystics through the ages have taught us. Jesus said, be not dismayed by appearances. That rather there is a dimension of spirit, a way of being that he referred to as the kingdom of heaven. And he said, it is within you. The Buddha spent his life and teachings trying to help us understand that the source of our suffering was not what was happening to us, but rather what we were clinging to or what we were resisting. You see, we move into a way of being sometimes, and I call it, we're either in the reactive mind or we're in the peaceful mind. The reactive mind thinks that we are at the effect of life. And so when we're in that reactive mind, our spousal unit is a great source of frustration for us. We might even say, you made me angry, as if you had the power to give me that gift. The responsive mind, the peaceful mind, realizes that there is a place in between what happens in my life and my reaction to it. And in that recognition, I get to be at choice. And so I can either be in that reactive mind or I can be in the peaceful mind. Now, this is not in the world, this is not an idea that is promoted. What we see, particularly in the culture in which we live, is productivity is valued above all else. And in fact, in our world today, it is not enough to task, but one must multitask. One must do several things at the same time. And so we may be on our computer, watching TV, texting, having a conversation with our beloved partner, and driving, all at the same time, thereby reaching the epitome of a well-lived, productive life, right? Something very wrong. And so what we are working to do is to learn how to be still. Now, I've been practicing non-attachment. with relative success. But one of the ways that I know that I must be making progress is I keep forgetting my cell phone. And so I don't know if anybody else does this, but that moment that you realize your cell phone is not with you, oh my God. Oh my God. Here I am completely alone in the world. And somebody's probably trying to tweet me even as I speak with that profound thing that will change my life that could never wait till I get home. Oh my God, what am I going to do? Right? Do you know what I'm talking about? It's frightening. But that capacity and that willingness to step back, to be still, to listen to the gentle promptings of Spirit. You see, so much of our lives is about what we believe is happening. And so we like to decide what's good and what's bad. We like to decide who's right and who's wrong. We like to decide who's good, who's evil. I just want you to know, by the way, while we're on the subject, I did not in any way allow my bias to influence our soup and chili drive. Of course, Myrna made me take down the good and evil sign, but, that was... After that, I was very pure about my willingness to see what happens. The good news is all the food goes to a great cause, and so we're excited about that. You see, but we love to do that. That's what makes sports fun. We have a team, we're for them, we're excited, we jump up and down. There's a story about Jesus attending a football game, and I know, it's not told a lot. It's you really got to read that Bible closely or you'll miss it altogether. And so on one hand, the Broncos make a touchdown, and he stands up and he claps and he cheers, and it's wonderful. And then then not too long later, the Seahawks make a touchdown, and he stands up and he cheers, and he's like, yes, I just want them all to win, right? For the rest of us who are somewhat less enlightened than that, we may have an opinion. But I think we would be wise. I was chatting with a friend, coach, mentor of mine, and I was having a conversation about what works in my life and what doesn't work in my life. And I said, there's just, I don't know why you would think you would get it after a while, that if the things that you do that make you feel better, that you would do that. Right? Am I the only one that doesn't? Right? And then you fall back into old patterns and all that sort of thing. And I was saying, I know there's 5 simple steps to what I believe to helps achieve good health. Nutrition, exercise, lots of water, rest, and meditation. I know those things help me feel better. So it's amazing to me that I forget that from time to time and think that something other than that, I'll have this donut, because I always feel so much more enlightened after, a good greasy piece of dough. Right? But spiritually, I think we say in our community there's 5 pillars. There are meditation and visioning, that being still, that listening for the voice of the divine. There's prayer. We practice a particular approach to prayer, but all prayer is good. Ours is an affirmative approach, believing that the wholeness of the divine already exists. So we're not asking for something, but we're rather recognizing the nature of what already is, that peace exists, harmony exists, abundance exists, and so we're recognizing that. But there's many ways to pray. We don't have an exclusive. We believe that study is a very important part. Spiritual study. What do the masters teach us about a well-lived life? And maybe if they're smart enough to teach us that, we might be wise to listen and to practice. We find that being of service is a great gift, not only to those whom we are of service to, but in the return that it brings back to us. It is nearly impossible to be in a place of gracious service and not feel better. And lastly, we believe in gracious giving, in that willingness to live from the overflow that says, I have more than enough to give, and practice that as a part of our daily living. So those 5 simple practices help define our life. But I find that sometimes I get so busy that I don't take the time to do the important things. Now, I know nobody else does this, so I'm just having a moment of confession. I appreciate you taking my confession. Right? We're so busy. But you know, there are some tremendous benefits to this thing called meditation that are being studied scientifically. There was just a study that came out from Harvard, which is not the worst school, right? I mean, they know a few things, right? And what they were saying in this study is that, in particular, they found genes that protect from disorders such as pain, infertility, high blood pressure, and even rheumatoid arthritis were switched on. Taking 2 control groups, those who, I think they say, practiced relaxation, because, you know, meditation would just be too woo-woo out there, but they practiced relaxation. And those who did found that genes actually, where stress turns them off, meditation turns them back on. So there is actually a health benefit to that. They said that we found a range of disease-fighting genes were active in the relaxation practitioners that were not active in the control group. You see, there are so many benefits that come from that stillness. I have to say I'm intrigued. There's a pretty dynamic conversation going on in our country, if you ever turn on news, about this thing called healthcare. Maybe some of you have heard. There's a little disagreement about that. But I find what's really interesting for me is that the conversation is all wrong. Because what those people are talking about is not health care at all. What they're talking about is sick care. And we have an amazing Western model that can take really sick and messed up people and help them be better. What we don't seem to have is a great understanding of what each one of us can do to improve our health. And so sometimes we get so stressed out that we go to our doctor and our doctor says, "Here, I have a pill for that. It will help you relax." One of the things that came out of this study is, I don't even know how to bridge this, is that I don't know how to work irritable bowel syndrome into this talk. I'm just trying to find a delicate way to do this, and I have no idea how you do it. But think about that. Irritable bowel, that would tell you something just by the name, right? And so maybe what would work is meditation, becoming relaxed, becoming still. Now, what we've known, all of us mind, body, spirit people have known for a long time, is there is a direct relationship between our spirit and our mind and our body. And that the more that we practice right thinking and right action, the more results we have in our body. So for those of us that from time to time think we're too busy, we would do well to listen to Mahatma Gandhi, who practiced meditation for an hour every day. And he'd say, you know, I am so busy today, I must practice my meditation. Because he knew the benefit of slowing down allowed other things to happen. And on really busy days, he'd say, I'm so busy today, I must meditate for 2 hours. It seems counterintuitive for us in our busy minds that wants to text and to call and to do all of these things all at the same time, that what might be the best thing we could do for ourselves, for our bodies, for our spiritual well-being is just to stop, to be still, to move into that place that Dr. Howard Thurman says where we can recognize the presence of God and sense it as an all-pervasive and aliveness which materializes into concreteness of communication, which is the reality of prayer. You see, even in our prayer life, in our practitioner group, sometimes we talk about not what are you praying for, but what is the consciousness you are praying from? You see, if we're frantic and confused and radical in our mind, then we're really going to give God a talking to. You know? Get to that realization step, and boy, we are going to let the universe have it. Here's what it has to be. And yet, when we can move into that place of awareness and understanding that simply recognizes that there is a presence of love, of joy, of harmony, of wholeness, then it's simply the recognition and realization and allowing that to be revealed in our lives. I come back to it time and again. I always remember that there is not anything that we need to make happen, but simply a consciousness that we need to make welcome. And through our spiritual practice, when we make that environment welcome, then life simply unfolds as it should. I come back time and again to the idea that the divine is always seeking its highest self-expression, and that it will reveal itself through us and as we open to the nature of things. In our reactive mind, we see this little myopic way of the way the world is. But in our meditative mind, we realize that there is this space that is expansive, and that we are not bound by anything other than that which we believe to be so. And so we can change our thinking, we can change our belief, we can change our way of being and experience a greater good. One of the things that the benefits of meditation says, calmness. And I love this phrase. It says, the simple difference between those who meditate and those who do not is that for a meditative mind, the thought occurs but is witnessed, while for an ordinary mind, the thought occurs and it is the boss. So in both minds, an upsetting thought can occur, but for those who meditate, it is just another thought, which is seen as such and is allowed to blossom and to die. While in the ordinary mind, the thought instigates a storm which rages on and on. You see, the illusion is to think that people that meditate no longer have those thoughts. But rather what we realize is when we're in the meditative mind, we realize there is a rise and a fall to all thoughts. There's a rise and a fall to all feelings. There's a rise and a fall to all sensation. It is the impermanence that the Buddha spoke to. And as we can learn to move into that witness state, into that allowing state, we do not need to be reactive to the thought. We simply observe it and we release it and move back to our state of being, so that we find ourselves more and more in a place of peace, in a place of grace, in a place of understanding. And all it takes for us is to be good for nothing. Right? I was accused of that at times in my life. You're good for nothing. Now I'm like, yeah, I'm good for nothing. I'm going to take 10 minutes, 20 minutes for simply nothing. But the observation of the breath and the awareness of what's happening within me. And as I become aware of what's happening within me, I have new insight and new awareness into what's happening around me. And new possibility emerges, new graces occur, love is made manifest, and I see that that which I seek already is. So I'm going to invite you after today. You don't have to get into this until tomorrow, because I wouldn't want to do that to you. You can practice high attachment this afternoon. But tomorrow, in your grieving, you may want to... I just can't help it. I try and be good. I try. You may want a new practice. to simply give yourself the gift to be still, to listen, to allow the divine to reveal its treasures to you. I bless you on that journey. Let us pray. As we simply turn inward, honoring and acknowledging this one life, taking a deep cleansing breath and simply remember that it all begins with the breath. This effortless activity of being aware. We become aware of the breath, and we even become aware of that which is behind the breath. That which is in truth breathing us. And we recognize there is a harmony, there is a wholeness, there is a love, a joy, and a beauty to this universe in which we live. As we slow down, we begin to perceive the more subtle aspects of life. And we realize that it is in this presence that we live, move, and have our being. That we allow this divine presence to reveal itself through us as joy, as harmony, as all good. We speak the word of truth, of wholeness, knowing that it reveals itself as health and well-being. We see that the only reality is one of love, the self-givingness of spirit. And so we open our hearts to be generous in our giving and in our receiving of divine love. We know that we are abundant beings right now, for we are one with the source of all abundance. So graciously we give and joyously we receive of the divine bounty that is available for us in this moment. I speak the word of truth for each of us gathered here, simply holding that high watch, that high vision of the divine revealing itself through us. And so I give thanks this day for the blessings that are in our lives, the blessing of this spiritual community, knowing that we are divinely guided into appropriate and right action in all ways. We bless our brothers and sisters this day as we simply hold that vision for a world that works for everyone, for a planet at peace, and in truth, a world that works for all. And as always, we bless all priests, rabbis, ministers, and teachers of every faith, for we know there are many pathways to the divine, and so we honor and celebrate them all. For all of these blessings and so many more, I am truly grateful. I give thanks and release it into that law of mind, knowing that it is so. As together we say, and so it is.